Hey, this is Matt, and I'm here to give you a brief overview of the 3 different patterns you can use to give your agents a wallet. By the way, before we get started, I'd always recommend, if you want to consume docs, do it natively from within your agent, since we're talking about that. Install the documentation MCP, and then you can access it directly from your IDE or your friendly neighborhood agent. It's far more efficient, and you can do it while you're programming as well. So you can ask it, okay, check this pattern, check the docs, are we doing this right, da-da-da-da-da-da. In any case, for the video, I will just do it here for you, okay? Now, 3 patterns: server, agent, delegated access. Seemingly similar, a little bit different in practice, okay? When to use which and why. Server wallets. This is where you have a root API key, which you as a developer create from the dynamic dashboard. There is no other user required. Using this API key, you can generate wallets, or rather, whatever is running your backend can generate wallets. So wherever your backend is running, essentially, as long as they have access to that root API key, wallets can be created. Hence, server wallets. Now, what's the difference between this and agent wallets? Technically, they're similar in a way, in the sense that you can create wallets on your backend and you can give them to an agent. However, in server wallets, it's all controlled by one single root API key. The agent is never a dynamic user. The agent can't generate the wallets itself unless it's a singular root agent running on your own backend, which is not always what you want. You do want it if you're running like fully automated bots like pipelines, cron jobs, stuff on your backend to create wallets and give them to agents. In my opinion, often a better pattern, and again, depends on your use case, but if you're going for the pattern of agents owning their own wallets, then this might be the pattern for you. What it lets you do is essentially have an agent sign into Dynamic. Now, there are 3 ways of doing that. If you are able to be in the loop, you can help it use email. So if it has an email, you can help it get the OTP, give it the OTP, and it can sign itself in. If the agent has its own private key for any reason, you can even create it and assign it one yourself. Then it can use the private key to sign in itself autonomously. Or if it has its own JWT, for example, from your own authentication system, then it can swap that JWT for a dynamic one, and it's then signed in. So after any of those 3 things happen, essentially the agent is a valid dynamic user. And using one of the SDKs, the agent can then create wallets. So if we have a look over here, and by the way, I'm going to use a Node SDK for examples. It's very straightforward. You see server wallets here, agent wallets here. Here's an example. What we do is, in this case, we create the client. Now we're going to use a private key for the agent. We're just mocking it, not mocking it, we're creating one. But we're mocking it in the sense that this would be expected to exist already on your side. Wallet has a private key, we then sign in, and after that point the agent has a JWT. We authenticate the client with that JWT, and the agent can then create a wallet, which it fully owns, by the way. Very different to the first pattern, in which case your backend has generated a wallet and essentially assigned it to that agent. In this case, agent's logged in, it's got its own wallet, it handles the shares, and it's associated with that agent's dynamic JWT. So more flexible and more ownership on the agent side. Okay, lastly, we have delegated access. Now, we've covered essentially giving agents wallets in 2 ways where they are autonomous. But what if you're building an app where your user, a human, signs in, they get a wallet, and at some point you want to give an agent access to that wallet to do some job for the user? In this case, delegated access is perfect. Again, it's the case where a user logs in through Dynamic, they have their own wallet, but you want to delegate access for that wallet to an agent. In this case, it'll pop up a message for the user will confirm, very important obviously. Once that's done, we'll issue a new share, we'll do a reshare ceremony in the wallet. Everything is kept secure. Everything is done in a flexible manner. And if you're interested in how that's done, I recommend looking over some of the MPC fundamentals over here. Very, very interesting stuff. Not for now. And in this case, the access can be revoked anytime. It can also be scoped. There you have it. 3 different patterns, all usable in different ways. Feel free to also combine them at any point. I think this is very exciting, and I'm very excited to see what you build.